Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Tonight, New York health officials are changing course and allowing individual school districts to craft their own COVID policies. This comes after the state announced last week that it would issue some universal guidance. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst joins us from Corning with tonight's top story.
Good evening, Ann. After talks of re-implementing mask mandates for students and staff, the responsibility for COVID guidelines has now been passed off to local school districts.
Nearly a full week after New York's Department of Education sent a memo about possible COVID protocols, state officials are backing away from issuing new guidance. Individual school districts and local health departments will now be asked to implement COVID policies to protect students and teachers. In a statement released on Thursday, New York's Health Commissioner Dr. Howard Zucker suggested schools follow the CDC's guidance. Last week, the CDC recommended universal mask wearing for teachers and students, regardless of vaccination status. The sudden reversal is causing frustration with Education Commissioner Betty Rosa, who called on Dr. Zucker to issue guidelines for New York schools.
I reached out to local school districts about re-implementing COVID restrictions, but have not heard back at this time. The school year begins on September 13th for most New York schools. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
President Biden may get much more serious now about vaccine mandates. And there's a report that the administration may start cutting off federal funds to force compliance. Douglas Ader has more from the White House.
The federal government may be up against some legal limits here, but there may be an effort from the White House now to switch from the carrot to the stick. President Biden in the driver's seat, taking a Jeep for a spin at the White House yesterday as the administration may consider a new avenue now to boost the nation's vaccination rate.
Our message is quite simple. We support these vaccination requirements to protect workers, communities, and the country.
The Washington Post reports that the president is considering playing hardball now on shots, possibly threatening to cut off federal funds for institutions that don't require vaccinations for their workers. Following a strong day on Wall Street, the president will address new jobs numbers today. But there may be more trouble ahead for the economy if COVID cases continue to rise. And while there has been a recent uptick in vaccinations, it's not happening quickly enough for federal public health officials. The president's critics, though, point to what's happening along the southern border. McAllen, Texas, has now had to build a temporary compound to house illegal immigrants after the city claims the federal government released thousands of immigrants who are infected with COVID.
Immigrants are testing in excess of 16% positive. So now we can't even move them. Now they're staying. And we just can't handle that anymore.
The U.S. reached a major vaccine milestone today. The White House says half of the population has been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. It took about 9 months to reach this point. The first vaccination dose was administered December 14th, 2020. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the pace of vaccinations are at their highest point since June 19th. An average of 464,000 people are initiating vaccinations each day. This comes as COVID-19 cases and the Delta variant continue to surge in the U.S. Some health officials are weighing in following Moderna's announcement that a booster shot will likely be needed to keep people protected from COVID-19. Lauren Jackson has more.
All vaccine effectiveness wanes at some point.
Moderna reports its vaccine is 93% effective against COVID-19 for 6 months after you get the second shot. But after that, effectiveness is dropping.
Having a little bit of drop off in the effectiveness, the antibody protection from the vaccine after 6 months doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get the shot every 6 months.
The vaccine company is now suggesting we may need boosters this fall, but Jefferson County's Dr. David Hicks says it's more complicated.
If you have some percentage drop, but you're still getting strong protection, is that significant for you to tell people to get a booster?
Moderna officials did not share exactly what the shot's effectiveness drops to after 6 months, but Dr. Hicks says if it's still effective, the CDC may not recommend boosters until after 1 year.
What if it drops to 85%? That's still phenomenal. What if it drops to 75%? That's still phenomenal.
Hicks says data on vaccine effectiveness is an important factor in the debate on boosters, but it's not the only thing experts are evaluating.
A combination of looking at whether immunity from the vaccine wane over time and what's the threshold where you need to boost that, then who do you boost it for?
It's unclear if and when the CDC will recommend a booster dose, But if it is this fall, Hicks says Alabama is ready.
Unless they reformulate the vaccine, then we have vaccine right now in the state that we can give people boosters right now.
A new poll shows most Americans support the CDC's new mask recommendations. The Quinnipiac University survey out Thursday indicates that 61% of respondents agree with it. About a third oppose the mask recommendations. A 55% majority wants to see masks in schools. Both issues split largely along party lines. More than half the respondents support vaccine mandates for healthcare and government employees. Fewer than half want such requirements for students or business workers. A former state employee just filed a criminal complaint against Governor Cuomo. The former state employee is said to be executive assistant number 1 in the Attorney General's report on the governor's sexual harassment allegations. According to the report, the woman filed an anonymous complaint when Cuomo reached under her shirt and groped her in his home office last November. This is the first criminal complaint filed against Governor Cuomo since the findings of the investigation were released. Elmira police are looking to press charges after confiscating 2 illegal guns this week. According to police, the guns were found during 2 separate traffic stops on Sly Street and East Church Street. In both incidents, the guns were found loaded in the cars. The traffic stops are still under investigation. New York police have arrested the man they say crashed into actress Lisa Baines with his scooter, resulting in her death. Baines died in a New York hospital June 14th, 10 days after the hit-and-run accident. Police say she was crossing a street when 26-year-old Brian Boyd ran a red light with his motorized scooter and hit her. He could face charges for leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death and failure to yield to a pedestrian. Baines has been in dozens of TV shows and movies, including Gone Girl, Cocktail, and One Life to Live. She was 65. The massive Dixie Fire continues to burn in parts of California. Daisy Caballero spoke with some evacuees as they packed up and headed out as the fire inched closer to their communities.
The Dixie Fire has exploded into the 6th largest wildfire in state history, burning over 44,000 acres from Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And as you can see behind me, has unfortunately also implemented new road closures as well as evacuation orders here in the Westwood community.
It's devastating. It's really my first home.
As the downtown city of Chester is still standing, other areas have unfortunately been destroyed by the Dixie Fire. People have reported extensive fire damage in the west area of Chester, which many tell me they're heartbroken by. Connie O'Grady of Chester packed up her and her 4 children's life in her car and says she's dreading leaving what they thought was their forever home.
Here,
tell me what's going on.
To evacuate, but not hoping. I'd love to stay home. I already took a load of stuff, so this is just sentimental stuff now and extra clothes.
I also spoke with a firefighter who is currently battling the blaze, and he tells me that he has never seen anything like the Dixie Fire before in his entire career.
You know, I've been in California fighting fire for a really long time, and this fire in particular is, to me, it seems a little different. Like, we can't catch it every day. There's a plume just gets bigger, it pushes a whole lot further, and you know, it's the first time in my career, 18 years, that I've seen so many plumes over so many days. So it's definitely a little different.
How are you feeling right now?
I feel pretty good, you know. Obviously we're here for the people, so like our emotions and our feelings kind of are put aside with everybody that's being evacuated, so we try not to show, you know, the emotional side. But I'm tired, you know, just like any other firefighter out here. Been doing a lot of work, a lot of hand line, a lot of construction, and yeah, just kind of ready for this fire to go down and go home.
Reporting in Chester, I'm Daisy Caballero.
The strength of the U.S. labor market continues to grow. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics released its jobs report on Friday. Last month, the country saw its biggest jobs gains since August of last year. The economy added 943,000 jobs in July. That beats economists' expectations by more than 70,000 jobs. The unemployment rate also fell to 5.4%, a new low in this pandemic. The June jobs gain was also revised up to 938,000 positions, showing the recovery has been strong all summer. If you plan on baking soon, you may want to hold off on licking that spoon. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention investigating an outbreak of E. coli linked to cake mix. According to the CDC, 16 people have been infected with E. coli across 12 states as of July 27th. 7 of them have been hospitalized. Most of the infected people are children, and they're all female. Investigators believe they all got sick from the same food. The Food and Drug Administration is trying to pinpoint the common brands and production facilities by looking at purchase records. Still ahead tonight, as students across the country prepare to return to the classroom, the concern over COVID-19 in children is rising.
There seems to be this notion that children don't get sick from COVID. They do.
We take a closer look at the number of cases among younger patients diagnosed with the virus and what health officials believe may help if your child is too young to get vaccinated.
Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Welcome back, everyone. This weather forecast is being brought to you by William Mattar. Well, I'm sure you noticed it, that heat and humidity is coming back. Our temperatures are already starting to warm back up. Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Monica McNeil in for Kim Walker for you this evening. Mid to upper 80s across our entire viewing area. Again, those temperatures are on the way back up. We're also going to see a return of some much warmer air, and the humidity is coming back as well. We'll stay dry tonight as we take a look at our future radar, taking us right up to about 11 p.m. Again, we will stay dry, but as we take a look at tomorrow, we're beginning to see the clouds streaming in from the south, and we'll have a little bit of moisture in place. By the afternoon, we'll begin to see a couple of showers developing after 3 o'clock. I think our best chance of picking up some showers in our general area will be about 7 o'clock and going into about 10 o'clock. Now, those showers will die down, but they'll redevelop into Sunday around mid-Sunday morning, and then we'll see another round of those showers redeveloping for the afternoon. So at least the first half of your weekend is going to be good. It'll stay shower free. It's going to stay dry. Here's a look at your forecast map for Saturday. Again, we will remain dry. It is going to be very warm because we're seeing more of a warmer air mass moving back in, as well as the humidity is definitely back. For tonight, we'll have a couple of clouds around, and our low temperatures tonight will hover right around the low 60s. We'll see 63 in Corning, over toward Mansfield, right around 64, Elmira 62, and down towards Worldsboro, right around 67 degrees. Let's take a look at what you can expect over the next 3 days. So Saturday, a possible shower or a thunderstorm, but that's going to be late in the afternoon, okay? Right around 86 degrees. 84 for your high on Sunday. We could see a couple of showers. We talked about that as well. And then going into Monday, it's going to be sunny, warm, and humid. It has been a while since we talked about the humidity, but it is back. With temperatures in the low 60s for overnight, and the rest of your extended forecast, well, since we've got this moisture back, we're going to see a chance for a scattered shower or two just about every day, because we've reintroduced the humidity and the temperatures have gone back up, so that creates some instability and gives us a chance for a shower or storm just about every day. All right, stay with us. We've got more news for you coming up.
As students across the country prepare to return to the classroom, the concern over COVID-19 in children rises. A well-known pediatric health group says there's a substantial increase in children and teens catching the virus. Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
Classroom concerns as students across the U.S. begin to head back to school. The American Academy of Pediatrics says that while severe illness appears to be rare among children infected with the coronavirus, more than 71,000 children and teens caught COVID-19 last week, up 84% from the previous week and 5 times as many cases as the end of June.
There seems to be this notion that children don't get sick from COVID. They do.
A grim outlook from the CDC as its latest forecast projects COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths are likely to increase over the next month.
We're really concerned with the Delta variant taking control that we're going to see a substantial increase over the next few weeks, with school reopenings being a major catalyst.
As the debate over masks continues to heat up, a new poll reveals 55% of Americans surveyed support the CDC's recommendation that all public school students, staff, and teachers wear masks in school regardless of vaccination status. 41% of those polled called it a bad idea.
If you have a child that is eligible for a vaccine, get them vaccinated.
Right now, the states with the fewest 12 to 17-year-olds vaccinated are Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Wyoming, and Tennessee. And if your child is too young to be vaccine eligible,
masking and distancing and grouping in very small groups will prevent exposure and spread.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
American investigators are trying to figure out where the coronavirus came from and how it became a global scourge. They've now gotten access to some genetic data, but turning that into definitive information is easier said than done. David Culver explains from Beijing.
U.S. intelligence agencies are digging through a treasure trove of genetic data that could be key to uncovering the origins of COVID-19. This is as soon as they can decipher it. Multiple people familiar with the matter telling CNN that this giant catalog of information contains genetic blueprints drawn from virus samples that were studied at the lab in Wuhan. In late May, President Biden ordered an intelligence community review into the origins of the virus. The two likely sources, natural origins, jumping from animals to humans, or a lab leak here in China. Beijing has pushed back repeatedly against that claim, calling it politicized. Now, this mountain of raw data could help narrow down the origins, but sources familiar with that effort say filling in that missing genetic link will not be enough to definitively prove whether the virus originated in the lab at Wuhan or first emerged naturally. To do that, officials will still need to piece together other contextual clues, and it's possible that at the end of Biden's 90-day push, in just a few weeks from now, the intelligence community will not have reached what's known as a high-confidence assessment as to the pandemic's origins. Administration officials have previously suggested to CNN that it's possible a second review could be ordered at the end of the 90 days. David Culver, CNN, Beijing.
Officials are still looking for a venomous snake that's missing in a Texas community, but don't worry, it already has its own Twitter account. Jeremy Roth has more in today's Take a Look at This.
Authorities in Texas are on the lookout for an escaped venomous snake that's gone missing near Fort Worth. The owner in Grand Prairie had a permit for this West African banded cobra, but police say he recently reported it missing from its enclosure. Authorities are asking locals to be on the lookout, but not be heroes. The 6-foot cobra is venomous, and its bite can be deadly. But of course, that hasn't stopped Twitter users from having fun with the whole thing. A recent account called Grand Prairie Cobra started tweeting pretend messages from, quote, a cobra just visiting and seeing the sights. For authorities, it's no laughing matter. They're urging locals with info to call 911. But for those at a safe distance, this faux first serpent account will keep you in hysterics. On first glance, this cave lion cub might look like it's just sleeping, but in fact it's a more than 28,000-year-old specimen found nearly perfectly preserved in ice. The cub was one of 2 found in permafrost by mammoth tusk hunters in Russia's Siberian Arctic. The cub, nicknamed Sparta, is so remarkably well preserved that scientists say its matted fur is undamaged and its claws are still sharp. Evidence suggests the cub died suddenly and scientists believe likely not at the hands of a predator. The next step will be DNA tests, which could reveal a treasure trove of cave lion genetic info. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
A guy's Titanic-like move to sketch a girl at an airport tanked big time. The botched, unflattering portrait went viral with plenty of people liking it because it looked nothing like her. Jeannie Mose has more with the rose of this story.
You know all of those botched art restorations in Spain that are always good for a laugh? Well, imagine you're the one being restored, waking up from a nap at Minneapolis Airport early in the morning and seeing a young guy seated across from you.
He starts staring at me and drawing and staring at me and drawing. Then I'm like, is this creepy or is this awesome? I decided it was awesome.
18-year-old Emma Keene was on her first cross-country trip alone, waiting for a connecting flight to Los Angeles. She admits she felt flattered and even hammed it up for the artiste.
I was posing.
After about half an hour, the guy approached
And hands me this.
Emma says she had been hoping for something along the lines of Titanic.
Jack, I wanted you to draw me like one of your French girls.
But instead,
I was getting drawn like a South Park character.
The guy who signed the sketch, Joe, told her,
I'm sorry if this is weird, but I drew you. Immediately, I was just like, oh wow, okay.
But to her admirer, she said,
oh my gosh, thank you, that's so sweet of you. You did a good job.
Emma, who's studying psychology and neuroscience, says it was like Napoleon Dynamite inviting Trisha to the dance by drawing her.
Took me like 3 hours to finish the shading on your upper lip.
I have angry eyes.
Emma objects to her mask, drawn as if she weren't wearing it over her nose when she says she was, her messy hair and that blob of a body.
I was humbled.
They spent 40 minutes talking before their flight left for LA.
He ended up being like a very sweet boy.
Since the drawing went viral, Emma's received other portraits to compensate, and the original is chilling on the fridge.
It was my dad's idea. My family thinks it's hysterical.
It may have been a failed pickup ploy, but at least she can't complain that he didn't get her good side. Ginny Mose, CNN, New York.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. If you've always wanted to go to space, but the trip is too far out of your price range, you may yet be able to make that dream a reality. 2 reality TV shows in development aim to send a winner to the International Space Station. Who Wants to Be an Astronaut? A show with the potential backing of the Discovery Channel would pit competitors against each other in a series of unknown extreme challenges to determine who is most fit to go to the ISS for 8 days. Another possible show with no major backing, called Space Hero, would put 24 people in a house, then eliminate them one by one until a winner is selected. While there's no guarantee either show would actually be able to launch a winner into space, and unlikely that the trip would be documented by a film crew, it still may be one of the best chances to get to space for non-billionaires. Hey, sign me up. Sounds like fun. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night.